My name is Sister Mary Stephany Rose, and I'm a junior sister with the Oblate Sisters of the Sacred Heart of Jesus. I'm here today to tell you a little bit about my vocation story and my journey to become an Oblate Sister. My story began when I was younger and I began reading the stories of the saints. As I was reading them, they inspired me to consider religious life because I was reading about saints who were either religious or they got married and then their spouse died and then they became a sister. So I wanted to be a saint, and that looked like the only way to become a saint. So that kind of was my first interest in religious life. And that kind of stayed with me off and on, although I thought of all the other normal careers that most kids think of, like a firefighter and a policeman, and I wanted to be a mother and just about everything else you can imagine as I went through life. But still, in the back of my head, I kept knowing somewhere that I was supposed to be a religious. And so as I got older, I was asking my parents about it and wanting to find out more. And so one time there was a vocation convocation in our diocese. And my parents ended up interviewing Sister Joyce and Sister Teresina and Sister Victoria for this vocation convocation. And as they interviewed them, they were impressed by the joy that the sisters had. And they said, oh, our daughter should meet these sisters. So we came to visit the sisters one time for dinner. And then after that, my sister and I stayed for a weekend. And at the end of the weekend, the sisters were jokingly telling my parents that anybody who broke a glass had to stay forever. Well, guess who broke a glass? I did! Well, of course I didn't think much of that because at that time I was only about 12 or 13. So I went and I visited other communities throughout my high school time. I visited some Dominicans, Franciscans, and I knew I was called to religious life. I just wasn't sure where God was calling me. And eventually I met a spiritual director, and as he and I was talking, he was like, well, why don't you visit the Oblate Sisters again? And so I did. But I still wasn't sure, and I also went and visited a community of Benedictines at this time. And while I was there, I got horribly homesick. Now, at this point, I had already been away from my family for like 3 weeks at one point, and I had been basically okay till the very end of that trip, so I was like, why am I homesick after being here one day? And then I realized I wasn't homesick for my family. I was homesick for the Oblate Sisters, and that I had been comparing the Oblate Sisters to every community I went to and trying to find the Oblate Sisters in them. And that helped me realize that it was really called to the Oblate Sisters of the Sacred Heart of Jesus, that was where God was calling me. So that's a little bit about my vocation journey, but everybody has their own vocation journey. Each sister is unique and has their own journey about how they came to be a sister and enter a specific congregation. I'd also like to tell you a little bit about the vocation journey once you become a sister. So it starts out as an aspirant and you just kind of visit the community. And I did that a couple of times. I actually even spent a whole summer one time with the sisters as I was discerning. And then my aspirancy was about 3 months specifically that we set aside to kind of get to know the community more and decide if this was really what I wanted. And then after that, I entered postulancy, and postulancy comes from the Latin word postulare, meaning to ask questions. And it's a time of you asking questions of the community and the community asking questions of you. So for me, that lasted about 6 months. And it was a time where I kind of got to see the daily life more and live it better and ask questions about how does the community work, what more is their charism, getting to understand that better. And then after that, I became a novice. And a novice is a new sister. And it's a time of really learning how to be a sister and what it means to be a sister and putting that into practice in your daily life. And it's also a time of deepening your spiritual life and getting to know Christ, who will become your spouse forever. And that lasted 2 years. So the first year was a canonical year, which means you're really supposed to be in the community and living community life. And then the second year is more apostolic, and you might go out a bit more to do different activities for the community. And then after that, you take your vows for the first time and become a junior sister. And so you take the vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience, and you do that for just 1 year. And as a junior sister, you get to then practice living those for 5 years, and then you take final vows. And I will soon be taking final vows. I was supposed to do it this year, but because of the coronavirus, we decided to do it next year so that we could have a public celebration. But I'm really looking forward to that final celebration and consecrating that union with Jesus and allowing it to become deeper. And just as we grow spiritually during our time of formation, we also grow as a person. So for example, during this time of my junior vows, I've also been going to school, to college, to get a degree in education in order to help the community with our apostolate, one of which is teaching young children. So I've been getting my degree in early childhood education. So I'm almost done with college. I have 2 more semesters, so I'll finish up next year. But you also develop your skills in other areas. For example, I've kind of become the tech person for the community. So I help the sisters with technology, and I also help some of the retired priests we have if they have any difficulties with their device or they want to learn how to do something. Another skill that I developed is playing the piano and the organ. Before I joined the community, I knew how to play the piano, but during my time here, I've learned how to play the organ. I've also learned how to play the organ at Mass, which I was not doing before I entered. So it's not only a time of spiritual growth, it's a time of personal growth. And one of the best things is you get to do that in community with a group of sisters who support you and help you through any difficulties. You know, sometimes when you're struggling, you can go to a sister and say, "I can't do this." And they're like, yeah, you can, calm down, it's okay. Because we are a family, so we do support each other and help each other. So my vocation story began when I was young, but every person is on a different journey. So I encourage you, as I encourage most young people, to just visit a community. You're not signing your life away because you visited. It's just a time to learn about religious life, because even if you don't stay, you might have a child who's discerning religious life, and you'll be that much prepared to help them, and you'll grow that much more in religious life if you just take the time to discern. It's a beautiful and wonderful journey.